And I was like so shocked at the way that I used to talk about myself. I used to literally sit there criticizing everything about myself, especially in like the South Asian community. It's a very big kind of problem where even if you're a few shades too dark, it's they kind of people will look down on you or make comments. So I was unemployed. I wasn't there was no kind of real plans for me to like get married. I obviously knew that I'm not gonna have kids anytime soon. I felt like I hadn't really progressed in my career, and I really had to sit back and think, what are the things that are actually going to help me get to where I want to go? That's when people were kind of like, you should start selling this because you could actually, you could probably make a bit of money from it.
Palvi, welcome to Getting There with Amy Claire. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good, thank you. So what we just do in this podcast is we just let the guest, I say me, let the guest introduce themselves in their own words. So for the listeners/viewers, go ahead.
Hi, so I'm Palvi. I am the founder of Uncomplicated Skincare. I'm also a natural cosmetic formulator and a youth development lead at the Prince's Trust, which is where we met.
Yes, we did. So in your, I think with this particular episode, it's interesting because every guest is different, but I'll know them on like a certain level. But I suppose, yeah, with us, like we kind of know each other, but I feel like there's going to be a lot I'm going to learn today, which is really nice. So yeah, in terms of your first event that you've chosen, you're kind of, it's a longer period rather than a specific event, which is absolutely fine. So your teenage years, kind of up to your being about 20, early 20s, something like that.
Yeah.
So tell me about why you have chosen this time.
So I think for me, growing up, I was like very shy. I was very like introverted. I didn't have any confidence. I really like struggled talking to people, even if it was like close family members or, friends. I wasn't someone who like I kind of hid in the background, and sometimes I don't know if it was like on purpose, but sometimes I probably made myself invisible because I just didn't want to stand out. So I just remember just feeling kind of awkward in certain situations, or just not being very sociable, not really putting myself out there in this kind of like, say if I went to like a party or if I was at like a social gathering, I would just not have the confidence to like speak to people. Or if I was in a group of people that, even if they were my friends, I just wouldn't kind of contribute to the conversations. I was just I know it seems like I'm, quite confident right now, but I was really shy. I would just listen and observe and just kind of laugh along at the jokes, but I wouldn't really say anything. I was very like self-conscious. So that's something that I really remember, like being as like a teenager. Even in like my early 20s, I really struggled with my confidence, and I think sometimes it was due to like the way that I used to talk to myself. So everyone has like, they say like, you are your biggest critic, right? So I feel like I was actually my biggest critic, and I didn't even realize it at the time. One thing that I remember that really stood out to me is I used to write in this diary, probably like not every day, but just like kind of important kind of days where I felt like I should be writing in my diary. When you're like a teenager, like I'm gonna write in my diary.
I'm journaling now, so yeah. I don't even judge.
Yeah. So, but I remember looking back at that diary. So this was like in probably like when I was like 13 to like 16, so like like the real like teenage years. And then I found that diary when I came back from uni. So I was like 21, 22. And I started reading through it, and I was like so shocked at the way that I used to talk about myself. I used to literally sit there criticizing everything about myself, about my body, my hair, my face, like the way that I was as a person. And that really kind of upset me, because I was like, you used to talk about yourself like you were the worst person in the world, and I don't know, that just like was really kind of a defining moment from when I really started to decide that I'm going to start being more positive about myself and being more accepting of myself.
Yeah, I think that's really profound because it's very important as well. I think people find it, well, not everyone, unfortunately, but people generally will find it at different stages. And I think that, I mean, it sounds obvious to say that the earlier we kind of discover that and put that into kind of change is the better. But sometimes there needs to be, as you said, like something needs to instigate it. So for
Yeah.
you, it was opening up that diary. For others, it's something completely different. But yeah, I think you mentioned a minute ago, it was like you were unaware. And this is the big thing, right? When someone's writing these things down,
Yeah.
the good thing about journaling or like having a diary is like upon reflection, I think that's the big thing, right? But I also think it gets that real emotion of how you're feeling out. Especially like I think a lot of us don't want to kind of
Yeah.
say how we really are because we're afraid of our own thoughts, really. So for you, when you were reading this, you think, oh, was it you were 21, 22 or something?
Yeah.
You said you were shocked at how the kind of you were talking to yourself or how you kind of thought about yourself. So what changed? What was that process? Because for you to realize that, I'm presuming that there was development there. And what kind of, what was that? What did that development look like essentially?
So I feel like I still wasn't completely accepting of myself.
Okay.
Even after that, I think it was just something that I just remember of like, this is like it was a very like, I felt like it was like a very sad moment for myself thinking about all those years that I spent talking to myself like that. But I think even after that, I still was not 100% happy with the person that I was or the way that I looked. So there was a lot of kind of issues that I still tried to feel like I needed to address. So I feel like it was still a journey until I really got to that point where I was like, this is who I am. I'm proud of who I am. You know, accept me as I am. Otherwise, I'm not going to change myself for anyone. Do you know what I mean? So I think I still used to kind of, so I used to have really bad acne. So that was one of the things that obviously we'll talk a lot, probably a little bit more about later, but it was that I was very conscious of that. I always was told that, I was always overweight. And again, looking back at pictures of me in my 20s, I was like, I look back at it now and I think, how did I ever think I was fat? Because looking at those photos, if anyone saw them, they wouldn't see the same thing. Do you know what I mean? But it was like growing up, you have like people making these comments, and I always used to kind of like struggle with like my weight. I always wanted to lose weight and be thin and all that kind of stuff. The other things that I remember is people always used to comment on the color of my skin. And again, I know, especially in like the South Asian community, it's a very big kind of problem where even if you're a few shades too dark, they kind of, people will look down on you or make comments. So you've seen me in my kind of, I know I'm a little bit tanned right now because I come back from holiday, but in my natural kind of, everyday kind of skin, that was still considered too dark in the South Asian community, which I think shocks a lot of people who are not from that community, because it's like, that's not considered dark. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I remember trying to always use like this is probably a reason why I probably used to aggravate my acne and stuff like that anyway, is because I was always trying to make myself look lighter. So I would use like bleaching products, or I would use like lemon on my face to kind of like brighten up your skin and all that kind of stuff. So that was something that I remember like doing quite a lot. And then more recently, obviously, the white hair is what kind of gets everyone.
I love it.
No, I love it too.
Yeah.
Honestly, I do now, but I still obviously get a lot of comments. And, obviously I like it when people are like, I've had loads of people come up to me and say like, oh, your hair looks amazing. I really like it. Like, it looks so good. And like, some people obviously think that it's like, I've gone and got it like highlighted like this or whatever it is. But then obviously you get some people who come up to you and will be like, oh, your white hair makes you look really old and like you should dye it and stuff like that. So I feel like throughout my life, like I've always had comments made about my appearance, which is what made me feel really conscious in my 20s, especially. And it got to a point where I remember, like, I was looking through some photos of me and my friend, and this is something that obviously I know a lot of people would do, is like you start comparing yourself to how you look with your friends, and you're like, oh, I don't look that good, or I don't have great skin, or I don't have great hair, or I'm not as slim as them. And I remember at that point, this was probably about 2018, I want to say, I just stopped taking photos because I was like, I just don't want anyone to see me. I stopped posting on social media. I mean, I'm not really someone who posts a lot on social media anyway at that point, but I just stopped posting on social media. I just stopped taking photos of myself. And even like looking through my photos, like there's like huge periods where I just don't have any photos of me. I like taking photos of like other people, or, you know, like other kind of when I'm at events and stuff, but I just didn't take any photos of myself. So yeah, I think it was just one of those things that I just became very, very conscious of myself.
I think as well, like, I know a lot of teenage in general, particularly teenage girls, would say, there's a big factor of their appearance, but yours, I suppose, is quite specific, right? To, towards your like image and stuff like that. And you mentioned even colorism,
Yeah.
which is a term that I hear a lot, comes from the black community as well. I've heard it in that.
Yeah.
I remember when this term first came up, I thought, isn't it really interesting? Because in Ireland, a lot of us are quite pale, and it's the complete opposite. Like, as in, if you're pale, it's like, oh God, you look ill.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Now, there's what I've noticed is those that are naturally pale, they actually look, it's like the natural pale with the freckles and stuff like that. They don't, it's, I found, because for me, I've noticed that like in winter, yeah, I get comments sometimes like I look very ill and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I realize it's like, okay, I'm not, I say naturally pale in the sense of my skin will tan quite easily.
Yeah.
So I've noticed, I was like, okay, but yeah, in that side, it's like, it's all about tanning,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
fake tan, and this is not just in Ireland, but this is like, this is obviously where I grew up, so I'm just going to use that example. But yeah, fake tanning is huge. Like, it's massive. Like, I remember even, like, again, in teenage years, you're going to go out without tan. Oh my
Oh,
God.
really?
Oh, you cannot. I actually don't know what it's like now. I wonder if it's the same.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it's changed that much. But yeah, and I just was like, oh wow, if someone didn't, they'd stand out and stuff. And then you were mentioning your example where it's like, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
So those that are like paler, trying to be more tan, so like tanned, or different kind of skin tones, and we're basically all trying to be something different. And I think this has actually been going on thousands of years. I've looked into it a little bit. It's literally it's mad. But for you, like, again, that age, extremely vulnerable, right? It's like, and you then had specific. So you said your hair. You said you got comments, like some loved it and others would say, well, first of all, I think if people are telling you that you should do this and you should do that, and it's not like out of place, out of love or something like that, it's usually an insecurity of them. They've probably been thinking of their hair, because they could never dream of letting theirs. I think that's what I've noticed. And that's not just with hair, but it's like, whatever they kind of keep mentioning is usually an insecurity themselves.
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, it was so. I've had white hair since I was like 16, because my mom it's genetical, so genetics. She has white. She's always had white hair from a very young age. So when I first started getting it, I wasn't conscious of it. It was just like, okay, fine, you have a few streaks of white hair. But as I started getting older and people started commenting on it, that's when I actually decided to actually start dyeing my hair, because I felt like I was getting so many comments. And my hair was actually quite really long. It was up to my waist. So it was like, and for me at that time, like, my hair was like my identity. And I know that might not be like, it might be a silly thing to say, but I was always the girl with the long hair.
No, I feel you on a spiritual level.
Yeah.
Like when I say like my hair is like my identity.
Exactly. And it is for a lot of women, right?
Yeah, I completely get you, especially when it's like that's the thing you get commented on the most, whether it be compliments or not.
Yeah.
So your hair. It's lovely like when you get compliments, but it can, that's kind of what fuels that identity sometimes, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's everything. It's not like, you know, we have other traits and
Yeah.
stuff, but like it does become something that if it's not, you know, if it doesn't look good, then you're thinking, oh my God, I've got a reputation. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, so I actually do completely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think for me, it was like I just became very conscious again because people were commenting. I started actually dyeing my hair, but when it just became a really long process for me, like, you know, obviously you've got difficult hair as well. It's like where the longer it is, the longer it takes to like wash and style and all that kind of stuff. And then I think it was only when I turned about 30, 31 when I actually just decided I'm just so tired of like dyeing my hair and doing all this, and I started to let my whites grow out. And this is obviously like COVID time, right? So it's like we weren't really going anywhere. We weren't really seeing a lot of people, so I did start letting it come out. But that's when the comments, obviously there weren't people around to comment on it because we weren't seeing people, right? And then it was, I think it was it last year or the year before? I think when I turned 32 or 31, and I was like, I feel like I'm just such a different person now, and I just wanted a complete change. And bearing in mind, I've had the same hairstyle probably for the last 30 years. My mom was really strict about cutting your hair. So she would never let me cut it short. And that's, you know, when I actually decided that my hair doesn't feel like me anymore. It doesn't fit my identity. It doesn't fit who I am as a person now. And that's when I decided to cut it really short. And this is probably like the shortest that I've ever had it. I did donate that hair to the Little Princess Trust because that's something that I always wanted to do. And I was like, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to get the chance because they actually don't let you donate hair that has a lot of white hair in it. Because remember, it goes to children. So they want it to be like kind of natural hair, not dyed hair, kind of stuff like that. So yeah, I actually was like, this is the last time I'm going to get to do it because I probably won't be growing out my hair. And now I feel like I feel more comfortable with my hair being like this. I just feel like it shows who I am as a person. I feel like I'm more cute and fun. So yeah.
I remember thinking, I was like, oh, I'm gonna donate my hair as well, and then it's basically offering like, do you want some straw, because mine was so damaged.
Yeah.
And during COVID as well, I think a lot of people have some interesting hair stories. I remember panicking because like my roots are coming through.
Yeah.
And I was natural blonde when I was younger, and I remember seeing as I was going brunette, I was like, oh my God, you know. And then when I started getting a few highlights, I felt like more myself. I was like, okay. So then I had blonde for quite a while. And then I was recently looking back on photos. I decided to do what I shouldn't have done, which is box dye my hair blonde.
Oh yeah.
And because during COVID, there's nothing there, like no hairdressers or anything like that. And basically, I looked like a Twix bar because what was happening is it'd be like, it was kind of dark brown hair, and then it was blonde, like bright peroxide blonde. So I was like, I got to dye it. And yeah, just not a great look, to be honest. I was like, some people are like, oh, it looks amazing. I was like, yeah, that's when the toner is working, you know, and it's but then as soon as that fades, so I'm on like a little bit of a hair journey myself, which is I've decided now, I noticed like the first thing for me was, okay, just get the top highlighted, and then what happened is my hair started curling more and more on the inside where it wasn't being damaged anymore, and I was like, oh my God, my hair is actually quite curly, because how damaged it wasn't really doing its thing. So I'm now letting my hair grow out. Now I'm just letting it go. Again, it looks kind of Twixy, I call it, like, but I'm just letting it do its thing because I want to see what my natural hair is. I don't think I've had my natural hair, I'd say, since 16, something like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I'm just letting it, and it's every time it seems to be getting like curlier and curlier.
I really like it. I really like the curls.
But it is interesting though with like what people see as like a part of their identity, and yeah, I think for for a lot of women, it's hair is a big part of it. For others, not so much, and that's totally fine. I was gonna say, and you kind of answered it, but I'm just gonna explore it a bit more if that's all right. You obviously said you had lots of comments on your appearance and stuff like that. I was gonna say, like, what, first of all, when you were a child, was there contributions to this? Like, what, because you said I was really shy as a teenager and low confidence. But obviously, when you're going through puberty and suddenly image becomes more of a thing, we notice these things more. What was like your childhood like in terms of that? Were you like went from more confident and then it dropped down? Were you always like that? And then the second kind of part of that was what, outside of the comments, what you think was contributing to the kind of lower self-esteem and confidence?
Yeah. So I think I was always like that, as like from a very young age. I remember always just being very like shy and not being able to speak in front of a lot of people and stuff like that. So I don't actually know what it is. I just feel like it was just one of those things. I was just very shy, and I did struggle with it like quite a lot. I can't like pinpoint and say it was like one specific thing. Do you know what I mean? And then sorry, what was the second part of the question?
Well, yeah, you've said it. So the first thing was like what you were like as a child, and then second of all, like what do you think were the contributions that were affecting?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I genuinely can't like pinpoint it to something, but one thing that I think that I can remember that stands out to me is I feel like even when I was in school, like I just felt like I didn't fit in anywhere. And I don't know if it was kind of like, and I think it's like something to do with the way that I was brought up. Is like my dad especially was like very strict when we were growing up, and he wouldn't let us like watch kind of English TV or listen to kind of English music. So I always kind of felt like I was left out of those conversations. Like, you know, people were like listening to the Spice Girls or like watching EastEnders, and obviously I love both of those things now, but at that time it was probably like I wasn't allowed to watch it, and then I really kind of rebelled and wanted to watch it. But it was, I always kind of felt like left out. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like I didn't fit in. People having these conversations. Like I remember one of the it's like so funny to think about it now, but you know, the whole in EastEnders, it was like the storyline of who shot Phil Mitchell. And it's like I didn't even know who Phil Mitchell was because I wasn't allowed to watch EastEnders. So that was like the big thing that everyone was like talking about. So yeah, I just kind of felt like I didn't really fit in at school, and I kind of was bullied. But I don't really like to think of it like as it's not. I wouldn't say it's bullied in the sense of like I was getting like beat up or stuff like that, but it was more kind of like the comments, or you know, like I just felt like I just didn't fit in with even some of my friends. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, and the thing that I think really kind of stuck out to me again was I felt like I didn't fit in with the people you know, in school or like high school and stuff. And then this was obviously here in the UK, and then I actually went to boarding school for 2 years in India, in New Delhi. And
Okay, because I know you introduced yourself at the start and you mentioned what you do,
yeah,
but I think it could be worth for the listeners for you to explain, because you weren't born in the UK,
oh yeah,
but you
yeah,
also weren't born in India.
yeah,
So do you want to just briefly go back
yeah.
and just explain, because it's actually quite interesting.
Okay, so yeah, so my family, originally we are from India, so we're like from West India, so Gujarat, a place called Gujarat. But both my mum and dad didn't actually grow up in Gujarat. So my grandparents actually, and I think my great grandparents actually migrated to like South India, which is not, it wasn't very common at the time. So both my parents were kind of like kind of raised in South India, and then they migrated over to Kenya and like Uganda and Tanzania. So my grandparents all went over to Eastern Africa, which is where me, my brother, and like my cousins, we were all born in like Kenya. We were only there for like a few years. So, when people always ask me like, oh, where are you from? Where were you born? I always say like I was born in Kenya, but I don't actually remember anything because I was so young before we came to the UK. So we came to the UK when I was like 3, 4 years old. So I don't have a lot of, I don't have any memories of being in Kenya. But again, that's something that always kind of, when people ask that question, they're always like shocked. Okay, you're not, because they would naturally assume I was either born in the UK or in India. Yeah. And then, yeah, we were in the UK. So I went to boarding school when I was like, I think it was like when I was like 13, 14 years old.
But in India?
Yeah. So in
Okay.
India.
So you would come to the UK and now you're going back to India?
Yeah.
Am I
So
getting that correct?
yeah. So yeah. So yeah, we went to, me and my brother both went to boarding school in New Delhi, but we actually don't have any connection to Delhi because we don't have any family there. It was, yeah, this is a boarding school that my dad had chosen for us to like go to. So I was there for 2 years, and again, another thing that kind of I felt when I was there is I didn't fit in because I wasn't Indian enough to be part of,
You weren't Indian enough.
yeah, because so the people that I went to school with, or like, like people in India, because you're coming from somewhere outside of India, they don't see you as Indian.
Right.
So they always used to call me like a foreigner in Hindi. So I always, yeah, so there I felt like I didn't fit in, but then when I was in the UK I also did felt like I didn't fit in. So I just remember thinking about that when, again, I can't remember, when you're like reflecting on life, and I just felt like how did I not feel I was like I don't fit in when I was in England, even though I've been pretty much, since the age of like 4 or 5. I felt like I've been raised here, I've been to school here, I still didn't feel like I fit in. And then even when I went to India, and technically everyone assumes that, yeah, like I'm Indian, right? So then they would assume that I would fit in there, but I didn't fit in there either. And yeah, I think that's one, again, this is something that I really like struggled with. And especially when people ask me like, where are you from? I find it hard to answer that question because I just feel like, okay, where am I from? Am I Kenyan? Am I Indian? Am I British? So now I just kind of say I'm all three.
Yeah, but that is, that's a part of it. It's like even when people ask me, I just go, I'm Irish English.
Yeah.
Which I literally am. I even did a DNA test and
Yeah.
yeah, I am literally English and Irish, and I was like, okay. But yeah, I think when I've actually had another guest on season 1 a couple of years ago when it was just the audio, and she had a similar experience. She's from Uganda, and when she moved quite young to the UK, but then when she went back to Uganda, they said they could actually spot her from a mile away.
Yeah.
And I remember going, how? Like, because I'm not as dark as them. And I was like, oh, wow. And they see, in this case, your skin complexion can actually determine, exactly where you're from, which is quite interesting. Or in this case, like, that you're not from,
Yeah.
in her case, Uganda. So yeah, I've spoken to a few people and they had similar scenarios. It's like, well, I can tell.
Yeah. Yeah, we always get told that as well. So I remember when I went to India the first time on like a holiday with my parents when I was like 7 years old, and my mum like made us, obviously we were wearing like traditional Indian clothes. We were like told not to speak English because obviously that kind of will flag to people that we're not from there. So we were speaking in Gujarati, and I feel like me and my brother, like we were taught Gujarati from a very young age, so we could speak it quite well. So even though and we didn't have like, some people have an accent. So we didn't have that kind of English twang to our Gujarati, but still people there, we looked like them, we dressed like them, we were speaking the language, but apparently we still like stuck out like sore thumbs, which is so funny, like how, people would just be like, yeah, they're not from here.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think even when you have some sort of dual nationality as well, like it just happens. Like I remember even with me, in Ireland, I kind of would stick out a bit more because the English side.
Yeah.
But then obviously I come to the UK and you're definitely not, your accent is not English. And then obviously my brother's accent is a bit more English, so people get very confused about that. But yeah, it is interesting. I think when you're in another country, you kind of feel more like the opposite one. I don't know if you felt like that. Like I feel more English when I'm in Ireland and more Irish when I'm in England.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of people seem to kind of experience this, and it's obviously not all negative. Sometimes it is what it is. But in terms of fitting in, it can be tricky, especially in your teenage years. So you obviously you have this like progress throughout, and then your second event, 6 months before your 30th birthday, back in 2019. Right, what happened there?
All right. So I'll start off by saying again, in the South Asian community as well, a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure for you to kind of get married by a certain age, like, go to a really good university and get a degree, have kids by a certain age, have a great, house, get, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of pressure to kind of fit, follow things like in a certain timeline. So I think for me, again, like there was a lot of pressure. Maybe I probably put it on myself sometimes, to kind of get married. I wanted to actually be married by the age 25, and then I wanted to have kids before I was like 30, and like, make sure I had an amazing job and all the rest of it. And I think, again, like my parents are not people that put pressure on me. They were like quite kind of understanding. And I think it was more like the outside community, or like, people that would ask those questions, oh, like, when is she getting married? Like, she's getting a bit old and all that kind of stuff. And I think by the time I was like 29, I was like, I kind of had kind of accepted that, okay, I'm not going to be married by the time I'm 30. And I think 6 months before I was turning 30, was it 6 months before? Hold on, sorry, 1 second. No, so what I remember is, it was coming up to my 30th birthday. It's probably in January, so January like 2019, I want to say. I knew like there's like 9 months left to your birthday, and at that point I felt like I was just so lost because I was unemployed. I actually had quit my last job because it was just such a toxic place to work in. I also had like a few things on in my personal life, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I just walked in and I quit. So I was unemployed. There was no kind of real plans for me to like get married. I obviously knew that I'm not going to have kids anytime soon. I felt like I hadn't really progressed in my career. I'd been working for about, 7-8 years. I felt like I really hadn't progressed in my career. I hadn't got like a property to my name. I felt like I just didn't have anything. I felt like I hadn't achieved anything in life. I felt like I was just, like I'd done nothing and I was going nowhere. And I think that was like, I really like struggled with that because I really thought by the time I'm 30, I'm going to have at least, my life to get together in some sort of way. And I feel like a lot of young people, especially, like they have that pressure from, I don't know if it's like from society or family or what it is, but everyone has that, it's the big 3-0 and you have to have everything sorted by that point. And obviously, there are people that do get, all of these things, from an early age, or they you can see people getting married and having kids, getting a house, whatever it is. And I think again this goes back to me again coming off social media for a little while, is because I kind of did feel I was comparing myself to a lot of people that I was seeing on social media, whether it was like friends or people you just know, whatever it is. And I just, again, that was kind of fueling that kind of thing of feeling like I'm not doing anything, I'm not going anywhere. So yeah, I came off. That was one of the reasons why I did come off social media for a little while as well. And I just remember feeling like so lost. I really do feel like I didn't get this like officially diagnosed, but I really do feel like I was going through depression at that point. I just felt like my life was just falling apart. And I remember I was in this relationship, which again felt like it was going nowhere. There was a lot of trauma there, and it was very toxic. And I just felt like we again had made plans to get married, but I just felt like that finishing line was just like escaping from me. Do you know what I mean? So the 6 months before my birthday, so I feel like I just kind of, I don't know what actually happened. Like, I don't remember it being a defining moment, but I think I just got sick of everything. I just thought, you've just not done anything with your life. And I thought, well, why are you sitting here feeling kind of like sorry for yourself? Why are you sitting here, pitying yourself and thinking that like this is your life, this is not going to go anywhere now? And I just thought, instead of sitting there complaining and again looking at all the negative parts of my life, or thinking about what I didn't have, I was like, if you really want to do something, if you want to have like a different life, then what is actually stopping you from getting that life? Because the only person stopping you is yourself. You can blame people for life not going the way you want. You can blame certain situations or experiences for, not getting you where you want to go. But there's nothing actually stopping you from planning and trying to get to where you want, right? So I did kind of, again, it was hard because obviously, like I said, I feel like I was going through a period of depression, and it's not like I just woke up and I was like, okay, you know what, today I'm going to fix my life. It was obviously quite a journey to get there, and I really had to sit back and think, what are the things that are actually going to help me get to where I want to go? And at this point, I didn't know what I wanted to do, or what, it was just like, you need to just start being more positive. You need to change your mindset. You need to just kind of take baby steps to where you want to go. So at that time, remember, I was not working. I was obviously applying for jobs, and I was, finding it really hard because I thought, okay, I would have got something within at least 3-4 months. And I think it was like eight months in, and I was still kind of living off my savings, and I was struggling. I did obviously do a few temporary jobs here and there, so I was having a little bit of income, but obviously not a lot. So with all this free time, instead of just sitting around doing nothing, I wasn't reading, or I wasn't going out. I was literally doing nothing. I was just sitting in my room, just feeling sorry for myself, and just struggling each day. So the first thing that I thought is, do you know what? I'm actually gonna try and exercise. I'm gonna try and eat right. So that's the first plan that I actually made. Was I started researching into what foods I could eat to help me get healthy. And again, I'm not a person that likes to go to a gym. So I feel the reason why I started focusing on these things is because I was one of those people that went to the gym every year. I joined, and then I would probably go about 2-3 times.
Was this in January by any chance?
Yeah, usually it is January. When everyone's making those New Year's resolutions, right? Yeah. So I was like, I need to do something different. I can't just keep going to the gym, because I'm not someone that knows what I'm doing in the gym. So I feel like I'm a duck out of water. So I actually joined like these classes. So it was like spin class, HIIT class, all those kind of different classes. And that's where I actually started going regularly. And I was really strict with myself. So from someone who couldn't go to the gym for at least like 10 years, I then started going to these classes at least 4 to 5 times a week, sometimes even like 6. So I started going to these classes and I really had to push myself. I had to be organized in the sense of, yeah, you're going to work, but then you're taking your gym clothes with you, going straight to the place instead of going home, because once you get home, you're not leaving. So I had to just be very organized, and I really had to like push myself. And again, I'm not someone who enjoys like exercise, but when it's made into like fun classes and there's like music and that kind of thing, that's when I actually started to go. And again, I remember I used to go to these classes, but I wouldn't talk to anyone because, again, I was not comfortable talking to other people or had that confidence to talk to people. But I remember so I'm one of those people that if someone comes up to me and starts talking to me and has a conversation, I'll start talking. But I'm never going to be comfortable like
instigating it.
Yeah. And I remember like people, even then, people in the classes would like be obviously talking, and when it was like the break, people would like stand there chatting, and I would just be standing in the corner. And I remember, and my friend will say the same thing. So one day, my friend, well, she wasn't really my friend at that time. This woman just came up to me and started talking to me, and I was like, oh, okay, she seems like fun. She was very like bubbly. She was very like, you could see she was a very people's person. And she's still my friend like now after about 5-6 years, but she remembers me at that point. She says, I remember you just standing in the corner not talking to anyone, and you just look so like shy and out of place. And now she looks at me, she's obviously seen that growth in me, where she didn't see me as who I was before, that shy. She just saw that one glimpse of me, and then she's seen me grow in confidence, do all these things, be like amazing in every way. She's just like, I can't believe how much you've changed. So yeah, she really kind of helped me again realize like how different I am as a person. And I don't know obviously if people in my life who I'm close to, I don't know if they can see that change, but I'm assuming they can, because I can definitely see the change in myself. But yeah, like I said, I was just like focusing on eating right and exercising, and I think that really kind of helped me. Again, I started to actually accept my body. I started to actually love myself from that. And the other thing that I started to do was I actually started looking after my skin. So I just kind of focused on the key things that I was like, things that I didn't accept about myself, which was my skin, my body, and like my health was something that I was kind of ignoring. So I started working on these things. So with my skin, again, I've made all those skincare mistakes that when you're watching TikTok and they're like, oh, have you made these skincare mistakes? I've made every single one. I've not worn SPF because I've thought, okay, colored skin doesn't need SPF. I've put on like toothpaste on my spots. I've like done
I've done that.
yeah, I've done all of the things that you shouldn't be doing to your skin, and then I was sitting there thinking, why does my skin look like this? So like I said, yeah, I used to have really bad acne and like pigmentation. People always ask to see like, oh, do you have like a before of what your skin used to look like? But remember, I didn't take photos. I was so conscious that I've probably got 1 or 2 photos where you can actually really see how different my skin looks from now to back then. But because I was so conscious, I didn't take any photos.
I was actually similar. Well, I would take them with when there's loads of makeup on me and stuff like that. But well, it'd be kind of group ones. But like, I'm exactly the same. Had horrendous skin, like really bad. It was actually quite painful acne as well. I don't know if you experienced that. Mine was quite sore. And I'm the same. I don't like, if I took a photo of myself with like full on acne, mate, that's being deleted within 3 seconds. Like I'm not, why would I keep that on my phone, And people are like, it's good to have before and after. I was like, for who though? Because like, I'm not doing it for other people.
Yeah.
And I completely understand that. Like, very bad skin, didn't really take photos of it. I did actually find one when I became a carer. My skin had like a reaction to the mask.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it was like bleeding and like really, really painful and stuff. It was like maskne and steroids, as they call it. But that was actually when I decided to take my skin, do something about it. I had to go on Roaccutane because it was like so very intense. But yeah, I did find one photo. It was me and my old housemate. And I remember going, oh my God. But even that, I had some makeup on, but you could see, but like in terms of like taking a photo with no makeup on when it's like really, really at the height of acne. Oh, I mean, I used to say you can play connect the dots, like, the game on my face, like that's what you could with my skin. So no, I completely empathize with that.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. I get exactly what you're saying. I think we've spoken a lot about our skin. Again, it's something which is like the main focus on your face as well, your hair and your like your face skin and stuff like that. So yeah, I just started researching into like ingredients that were good for acne, that would kind of help, balance out your oil. Like I had really oily skin, so helping out balance out your oily skin. And again, something that everyone, and this, it was the same with me, thinking that oily skin, you need to kind of strip it off all its oils and make sure like your skin is like bone dry. But then your skin is oily again the next day. It's because you're lacking the kind of oil that you need. Your skin does it. Yeah. And I'd never use a moisturizer. I don't know what the hell I was doing with my skin. But yeah, I started researching into ingredients and I started using ingredients that would help me with my acne. I started buying all these products from, like the high street and from like brands that I thought, oh, these are supposed to be really good products. This is what everyone's using. Let me try it on my skin. And yeah, some products did help me kind of reduce my acne, and then some products just kind of my skin just reacted. It just became really sensitive. It was like red. It was just breaking out. It was just really sore. So again, it was like I just felt like nothing was like working on my skin. So then I decided to actually go back to basics in the sense of what I spoke to my mom and my grandma, and I was like, what do people use? Or because my mom is like one of those people who she doesn't use anything on her face, she doesn't wear any makeup, she doesn't use any skincare, and she's just got great skin.
This is what I find with lots of men is the case. I'm like, and the other joke is like their eyelashes.
Yeah,
they're always flawless. But I wonder though, is one of the reasons in some cases, and obviously there's going to be a lot of men out there going, no, I've had really bad acne and stuff like that, of course, but I find, and you probably understand this as well, is we can over experiment with different products, and we end up we think about what the skin is built for and what it's actually meant to be applied and stuff like that. I find that, I mean, you see even these TikTok trends, thinking, what are you doing? Like, what? And some of them I'm just thinking, you would genuinely just think of anything for views, mate, because there's no way this is for skin. But like, yeah, it's one of those things that with men, it's kind of like, oh, they use their moisturizer, a bit of SPF or something. Even before that, they wouldn't. But their skin is less irritable, or irritated, I should say, because they're not overdoing it. That's what I've experienced.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. So that was, again, something that I learned in that time is, I started, like I said, I started using all these different products. I was like I was one of those people, which I'm ashamed to admit, I was one of those people that was using like 10 different products in the morning and then like 10 different products in the evening. And your skin doesn't have time to kind of react to like one thing, because you're like constantly overloading it with like so many different products. Do you know what I mean? So it's like your skin actually needs time to like get used to a product that you're using. And remember, you have to be consistent. So it's like you can't just expect to use a product and then expect it to be like amazing in one day. Ingredients take time. And one of the ways that I kind of explain to people is you wouldn't go to the gym for one day and then expect to have like a great body, right?
Unless you've got seriously incorrect expectation management.
Yeah. So you would need to be consistent when you're going to the gym to get that kind of toned body that you want. And if you eat healthy for a day, that doesn't mean you're eating healthy. when the rest of the time you're eating junk food, right?
Yeah.
So that one time you use a skin product and then you turn around and say, this doesn't work, or it's not great, it's not working for my skin. It's the same thing. Things like, I feel like I really learned during that phase that anything that you want, like, you have to be consistent with it. If you want that great skin, if you want that great body, if you want to be healthy, like, you have to be consistent. There's no point in doing it on a one-off and expecting miracles.
So this is really important because, and I was going to bring this up, actually, you mentioned earlier about, when you said originally you didn't want to go to the gym. So gym is one thing, right? And as you correctly said, it's like depending on what area you're trying to improve on. So discipline, I feel like there's a serious lack of discipline in this day and age. And I'm trying to take ownership of that in terms of, for me, I'm like, okay, I was like, I definitely need to improve my discipline. And I know this may sound mad, but I've genuinely only really understood this very recently. And I wish this had been explained to me before, and it would be obvious for some people, but it wasn't for me, so there we go, which is discipline is like a muscle. I actually, for quite a while, thought that some people, because of their environment they've been raised with, that it's developed in childhood, your discipline. So therefore I'm like, okay, I've got some discipline, as people a lot worse, because I would, I might gym or whatever, but in other areas of my life, studying or whatever it might be. And recently I was like, because I'm really into psychology and trying to self-development and stuff. So I've been reading a lot of books and listening to a lot of podcasts on that. And I was like, discipline, it's become very, very clear. I'm not sure if you've heard of David Goggins. He's probably the most disciplined man on the planet. Ex-Navy SEAL, went through 3 different hell weeks. One is quite literally hell, and he decided to do 3. But I was listening to a few of his stuff. Now, he's very intense. I find him quite funny, actually. But I noticed I started reacting quite well. Now, he's targeting more, he attracts rather than targeting young men who really crave discipline, like really crave it. But I'm noticing, because I've got quite a masculine temperament, so I'm drawn, sometimes the strategy might be more of what other men find is best. So, and I was like, oh, and he's talking about discipline. And obviously other people too. You've got Stephen Bartlett, you've got Chris Williamson, all these other kind of podcast hosts and stuff I listen to, but they're talking about discipline. Now, some are talking about it in work, especially like Alex Hormozy. Some are talking about it with fitness, like David Goggins. And it's like, oh, hang on a second. I need to build my discipline muscle. And I'm honest, this is honestly like over the last year. Like before that, I really thought, oh yeah, I could tell myself, like, I'm like, yeah, I need to get better at this. But I really did think that this is because of, maybe because my household should have been stricter or something like that. But actually it's not. It is something that you can just build. And hearing that has been the best thing ever, because I was like, okay, I need to, I'm actually going to be doing another video on this separately, become comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
If you want to succeed in anything, right? You want to get a better body, you want to build your own business, you want to improve other aspects of physical health, mental health, whichever, you need to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I realized this. I was like, I'm too comfortable. And this is why the discipline isn't there. So I was like, okay, well, let's work on that. So I remember I woke up one day and I put on David Goggins' clip, and he just was like, the first thing I do, like, when do you wake up? He's like, 4:30 or something. I thought, I ain't gonna be doing that, but like, I was like, I kind of wake up quite early anyway, which is all right. And he goes, I go for a run. And they're like, oh, why do you go for a run? And he goes, because it's the thing I want to do least.
Oh yeah.
And I went, right, now when I say I hate running, Palvi, no. But I actually went out and I started running, and I did actually nearly vomit, and that's how I realised a few things. Number one, okay, this is good. At least we're trying to, become a bit more comfortable with being comfortable. Second of all, my God, I gotta become more aerobically fit, because this is a disaster. But but that was the first thing, is discipline. But when you were mentioning, like, the whole gym thing, I found out that like the biggest reason, obviously, okay, this discipline is a huge thing and people just have, they don't have it. And you actually said as well, and it's so true. You can blame on who you want. People complain, they love to complain. It's society, it's this, it's my parents, it's this. Look, I've been there.
Yeah.
Like, I get it.
Yeah.
It's not going to get you anywhere. It may not be your fault that things happen to you but it is your responsibility to go out and get it. And it is your responsibility to go out and fix it. Because if you want to rant about the government and society or my family or my friend, listen, good luck, because it's just you're not going to get anywhere with it. So you're better off trying to fix yourself first. And like, to do that, you got to face some uncomfortable situations. And sometimes that's mentally, sometimes that's physically. But the other side I remember hearing is like, one of the biggest reasons people don't go to the gym, I think it'd be, I would say this affects women more, but I can imagine it's both, is some of them could have better discipline, but it's actually the fear of looking like an idiot. So you'll get this. You might know this now with different situations. If you have a friend or family member that keeps going, yeah, I'm gonna go to the gym now. I'll go, but then they move it, right? I'll go on Monday or I'll go next week. If you like, for me, that phrase like I'll start next week or I'll start on Monday or I'll start whatever is just, it's basically translates to I ain't gonna do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a lack of discipline, but I've realized with the gym specifically, and I've seen this now with friends and family, and I've seen it in other people's examples. They don't know what they're doing, and that is actually what's stopping them. And you can easily apply this to something else, right? I don't know what I'm doing to start a business, I'm just not going to do it. We live in a world where you've never had so much access to help and resources. Like, go out and get it. And it's like, yeah, so if anyone's here is struggling with the going to the gym, or they keep telling themselves, it may be a discipline thing, but it also, people say, oh, it's a cost thing. Well, no, because if there's home workouts, if you've got access to YouTube, you can do that too. Especially, but if it's a confidence thing, well, that might stop you from going to the actual gym. And I think that breaking down that barrier can be quite tough. And you said when you went to those classes, in a group setting, that may be better other times. I don't know, it mightn't be, but I feel like don't let that stop someone, because you, especially like there's personal trainers there to help and stuff. And I think like when I see someone running or working out, and this is obviously just an exercise example, but like in any case, just trying. Oh, I have so much admiration. Like if anyone's ever like thinking, oh my God, I don't want to go to the gym, or I don't want to do this because I don't look like an idiot. Honestly, anyone that judges that, it says a lot more about them. And I feel like, but when I see someone who's slightly overweight and I see them in the gym, I'm like, yes, get it. Like, as in, I'm not looking at them going, oh my God. It's like, could you imagine, like, what are you doing in the gym? Like, this is only for people who have an 8-pack. Like, no, it's not. Like, do you know what I mean? So I think
it is very intimidating though, going to the gym. Absolutely. And you see everyone like knowing what they're doing, and they've got like these amazing bodies, and you're just going in thinking, okay, what the hell am I doing here?
Oh, the machines.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, I mean, I didn't really start going to the gym until my I lie. I was early 20s, was I? Yeah, I was early 20s. I'd gone the odd time, in a teenage, but I wasn't big into the gym either. And for me, I didn't have a clue. Like, okay, I know on the cross trainer we go like this, or but like realistically, to build muscle, like some of these machines are very intimidating. I was like, do you know what? I'm just gonna ask. Sorry, do you mind just showing me? Also, men specifically love when women ask for help. No, trust me, they absolutely love it. So ladies, don't be afraid to ask. It doesn't have to be a man, obviously, but like, even or people who do know what they're doing, it's a real compliment. Don't be afraid to like ask, I think. And I know that might sound easier said than done, but like for you though, good on you for actually going, you know what, I'm going to go to a class, because the focus isn't say on you, right? Yeah, it's on everyone. And that's a really good place to start. And this isn't just for gym and exercise. You mentioned like with you felt like your whole all areas of your life are coming down, and you're targeting for you it's health and it was skin. Your stories I can relate to as well, with just over experimenting and stuff like that. in terms of your third event, because you were talking about skin, you in 2021 decided to start your own business, right? So you obviously you focused on your health a bit, then you kind of moved to your skin, and you were like, "Do you know what? I'm gonna start my own business." Tell me about that. What kind of spurred that on?
So, yeah, like I was saying, for me, I never actually planned on starting my own business. I was trying to just, like you said, just target some areas that I wanted to like improve. So, going back to the skincare, I did start obviously using like loads of different products, wasn't working. Then I decided to go back to basics. I started using a lot of kind of Indian and like Eastern African ingredients, which people like my ancestors or like generations have been using over time. So I started actually using like fresh aloe vera. It's supposed to be really good at kind of soothing really like painful acne redness on your skin and stuff like that. I started using like rose water, honey, like loads of different ingredients that loads of people in India actually use quite a lot, especially because some of them have like Ayurvedic properties. So I started making like this a face mask at home and this face scrub at home. And I started noticing that because it was all kind of ingredients which were like really soothing and calming and like good for like acne, I started noticing like a difference in my skin. And at first I thought, oh, this is just, it's just something that, yeah, it might be working. But then I remember my cousin sister and like some of my friends saying to me like, oh, what are you using on your skin? Because your skin is like, it looks like it's, improving. So then I was telling them, oh, I've been started making these things in my kitchen and this is what I've been using on my skin. So then people actually were like saying to me, oh, can you like make some for me or can you give me the recipe? And I was like, yeah. But obviously, when I start doing something, by the way, I kind of like maybe I go a bit OTT. So obviously, I was making like my face mask had like, I remember like 12, 13 different ingredients, and like the hair oil that I made had like about 15 different hair oils that I had kind of combined. So, like, when I start doing something, and like you said, it all goes down to like research, right? You have to research. We have so much access at the tip of our fingers now. So that's where I was getting my information. I hadn't at this point I hadn't done like a course or anything or a qualification in like cosmetic formulation. I was literally just going on the internet and like looking at loads of different things that people were using, and I thought, okay, let me just start experimenting with them. So once obviously when I was like sharing my recipe with my friend, she was like, this is just too much, like, can you just make it for me? I'm not going to go out and buy all these ingredients and like make this for myself, like, can you just make it for me? So I was making little tubs of like my face mask or my face scrub, but remember, I'm using fresh ingredients, so it's like I was literally getting like fresh aloe vera plant and scraping the gel, or I was using like fresh rose water and whatever it was. So it was like all kind of, some of them was like dried powders, but then most of them had things that would like spoil over time. So I would actually keep my face mask and my like scrub or whatever it was in the fridge, because that was obviously going to help the kind of process of it not going off, right? But when you're making something like this, you're going to have to use it within 2-3 days. Otherwise, yeah, you're going to get like mold growing on it, whatever. So that was the problem that I was having, because if I was like trying to give it to someone, they would have a very short space of time before they would actually, like, they would have to use it before it would go off. So that's when I decided that, okay, I want to try and see if there was a way for me to create something which wouldn't go off without the need for preservatives. So that's when I decided to turn everything into like powders. So it was like aloe vera powder, rose powder, neem powder, whatever it was. Everything was basically, I turned everything into a powder form instead. So that way you're adding the water yourself, and then it's fresh every single time, so it's not going to be kind of growing mold on it or whatever. And that's when people were kind of like, you should start selling this because you could actually, you could probably make a bit of money from it. And at that time, even then, I was like, again, I wasn't 100% sure on the idea. I was like, it was kind of like one of those things, again, this is like the way that you talk to yourself. You're like, you're never going to be able to do that. You're never going to be able to start a business. You haven't got any business qualifications. You've not done anything in business. You don't know anything about, actual cosmetic formulation. And I thought you had to be like a dermatologist or a doctor to like create skincare products. So I was always like focusing again on the things that I couldn't, why this would not be a success or why I couldn't do this. Do you know what I mean? And then it's like, I feel like at that point, because I was slowly like developing my confidence, like I said, because I started going to the gym. I felt more comfortable in my skin actually was improving, and like people were complimenting me, and like you said about the thing of doing things that make you uncomfortable. So I was doing things, I was getting into that habit of trying to do one thing a day that would make you uncomfortable, or like if I wanted something, again, like I said, I'm not a person that would go and ask for certain things, but my thing now is if you don't ask, you don't get.
It's true.
And there's so many times I've noticed that opportunities that were right in front of me, because I hadn't asked that question, that I didn't get it. Do you know what I mean? There's been times when I've stopped myself from getting an opportunity because I haven't gone to something, or haven't gone to an event, or haven't spoken to a certain person, and then I was sat there thinking, why did you just not speak to that person? Why didn't you just not ask that person? Do you know what I mean?
I think because I completely understand this, and I've been there as well, where I also have not asked. So I know I mentioned with the gym thing, like go and ask. That was more encouragement, like, and I did ask, but it doesn't mean I just instantly thought, yeah, no worries. It's like I get it, and with not just areas of the gym, but I'm on about business opportunities and stuff like that. And mine came from the fear of rejection. For me, saw them saying no as, well, obviously my endeavor is not enough, and they're obviously going to say no. And then I think hearing other people's stories, another reason I'm doing this podcast, is like to re-emphasize that rejection's a massive part of life, and it's like that Rocky quote, it's like, it's not how many times you can get hit, it's how many times, it's not how many times you can hit, it's how many times you can get hit and then get back up. So it's super important, I think, what you're saying, because even the word luck, because you mentioned opportunity, I personally think yes, there is a bit of luck, but I think you can create the chance that, like, it's like, oh, I didn't have the opportunity. Okay, where did you place yourself? Because you can create that luck. The luck is, I've met a really good contact that's going to help me with my business. I created the luck because I went to a networking event. You know what I mean? It's like, I think that is true. And I think it's, I want, like, particularly like kids or adolescents, whatever, to kind of to know this, because I feel like if it's confidence, and sometimes I think we have to, what you did, what I really like what you said is you took it like a step-by-step thing, right? You worked on yourself first, right? What's the first priority? Okay, I need to eat better, I need to exercise, I eat myself before I do anything. Once you do that, it's like, right, step 2, I can now do this. I think that's really important, and I didn't get that correct very well when I was particularly in my early 20s. I was a little bit chaotic, and I look back at it with love to it now, which is something I didn't have a few years ago, but which is, okay, I was doing lots of things I tried. However, I think I was perhaps a little bit too all over the place, wasn't structured enough. So what you did is like that step-by-step approach is really, really good. It's a very powerful tool, because focus on your main priority, your health, then that will help your self-esteem. That will help your confidence. Focus on your confidence first, and then watch the magic happen.
No, I agree. Just touching on that. Again, if you look at it, when you, and it's the same thing with like trying to be healthy, is like the key things to trying to be healthy is obviously like eating right, making sure you exercise, and like getting enough sleep, right? But when you try and go to, if you do like an extreme kind of diet, or you kind of change up your eating habits, like to the extreme, where you're like, I'm not going to eat any biscuits, I'm not going to eat any sweets, I'm not going to have any sugar, like go to the other end of what you're doing. And then same with the exercise. If you go straight to the gym, or you're like, I'm gonna like run a mile today, or whatever it is, like that's when your body goes into shock, and it's like, I don't like this, because it's not used to it being that different, right? So that's why for me, again, it was like those small baby steps. I still was eating things that I wanted to eat, but it was like I made healthy replacements, or I still was, if there was something that I'm a massive like fan of crisps. I love crisps, and that was like my weakness, eating those big bags of crisps. But it's like, how can I still have that, but in a healthier way? Do you know what I mean? So it's like making those small little changes. And again, going to the classes, I didn't go straight away. I wasn't going 6 days a week straight away. It was like, I was like, no, I'm going to go 2 days a week, and then I'm going to be like that for the next maybe a month, and then I'll work my way up to 3, then up to 4. Do you know what I mean? I feel like that's where a lot of people like fail or struggle, is because you always put in too much pressure on yourself. You're like trying to go from one end of the scale to the other, and it's like, you can't, the saying where you can't run unless you learn how to walk, and that's what you should be doing. So that's exactly what I did with my skin, with my food, with going to exercise. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It's like you have to take those baby steps, and it makes it so much, it's still hard, but it makes it a little bit easier.
I think you have to really remove the barriers as well, right? And people go, I can't. It's a lot of them then start projecting like an external locus of control, which is like it's someone else's problem. And basically what I mean by that is, if there is something you're finding difficult, and I'm speaking from experience and I get this wrong a lot as well, like I definitely don't want to betray that I've just got it all together, because absolutely, I'm sure like everyone can relate, life's an absolute roller coaster. But I think I was watching an episode of Modern Wisdom by Chris Williamson again, because I find it like I get a lot from it. But he was speaking about the discipline equation, and it's essentially, I was like, oh wow, this is a really fascinating concept, and it's the idea of like why you're doing something, but then that has to be powerful enough. So for those that are, for example, investing in something for someone else, chances are it will fail. I'm talking about, let me set up a TikTok where I post lots of bikini photos. Their value is actually nothing to do with that. They're doing it because they need validation. They usually will end up eventually like quitting, right? So the why, like why are you doing something? So if it's like, I want to set my own business, why? I want to lose weight. I've noticed that people that, and it's not judging, it's no judgment to them, it's more kind of just an analysis, which is the people that talk a lot of the talk but don't walk the walk. For example, they also have a pattern of doing something at certain times. For example, a person who wants to lose weight, there will be random times that they'll go to the gym or start eating right. And I've noticed it's because there's an event coming up.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Holiday is coming up.
Yeah.
You are not doing that for you. I don't care how many people or how many times you can tell me, oh, I've decided to get it. If it's a motivational thing, right, fine. Okay, I get that. I've been there too. But if you're the sort of person that I'm now going to eat right because I need to look good in a bikini, and I think people have to be really honest about that as well. Or I'm going to start exercising because I need to look better for my colleagues, for my friends, for my this. You are not doing that for you, and that's not that's the issue. And if you feel like, why do I keep failing? And then unfortunately we beat ourselves up, that inner voice, right? It's that. So if you're going to set yourself up, and you said it with the step thing, sometimes we jump too ahead. You're setting yourself up to fail that way, because the why, the meaning behind you doing something, isn't authentic. And I think a lot of people, including myself, I've experienced that. I'm like, oh, this is fun, and then suddenly I'm like, where's my motivation going? And I'm like, okay, well, motivation is a bit of an up and down thing anyway. It's not necessarily one straight line, but it's that meaning. But then you've also got the barrier. And the barrier is like, how can we make this easier or harder for myself? So people always say, okay, if I'm going to go to the gym, so I put on their gym clothes straight away. All right. And it's like, okay, or you're going to get the gym is nearest you and not further. Yeah. And some people, oh, it's too far, or this is this. These are all barriers. So trying to remove as many as you can, or make those barriers just a little bit lower, I think is a big thing. But the why, that meaning, and I think for you, when you were like, right, I actually find personally that I have to hit rock bottom for me to then blossom. Like it's such a thing with me. I don't know. I actually don't know if this is with everyone, but like I find, and like when you were saying, you're like, oh my God, my life's falling apart. It didn't actually surprise me that that's when you just started making these changes, because your why was for you. From what I'm hearing, it's like, I'm not doing this for my partner or this anymore. I'm done. I'm doing it for me. And it doesn't surprise me that then you start seeing this success. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you really love yourself, I feel that this is coming from experience. I don't think, and this is not like, I don't want any like, it's not like a soppy story or anything, but I didn't really love myself until probably a couple of years ago. And how I realized that is only from loving myself. I was like, okay, being kinder. Being kinder, it doesn't mean doing whatever I want. In fact, it was kind of the opposite. It was like remember we spoke about getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. But then also, I found that it was like, we need to figure out where these bad thoughts are coming from, because they're stemming from often childhood, right? I find that. And again, it goes back to that point I realized, and I was one of those people that did project it. I was like, it was that self-loathing and like, poor me type thing. When in fact, my life is freaking fabulous compared to some people. So I'm like, okay, but I still felt that way, and that's okay. I can validate that. But I personally found that, where is it coming from? And I'll never be able to fully love myself until I kind of accept things a bit more, and then move on from that. Sometimes people do that through therapy. Sometimes people do that through the step-by-step process. Sometimes it's incorporating both, and all different sorts. But like, again, it's that thing that for me, a big lesson was, it may not be your fault, Amy, that you're feeling like this due to that in your past, this happening or that, but it is absolutely your responsibility to now go off and fix it. Because you know what? Every other person I know also has their own demons and their own past. And I was like, we can't just keep blaming others all the time. I was like, can we just take responsibility? That wasn't easy. Like, I found that really difficult, because it was like the emotional side of my brain was like, no, I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to, it's easier almost, I think, for, again, personally, that I found to just blame others. And I was like, for me, I was like, we got to stop that. As soon as I started doing that, I was like, whoa, my God, like, this is suddenly better thoughts. Okay, cool. That kind of more go get it attitude.
Yeah.
Like, it's very powerful though. And it comes and goes, of course. But I think learning that and accepting that, the discipline got better, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, I know I'm slightly going off on a tangent, but I just think, like, when you've mentioned these things, those kind of thoughts and ideas came to my mind, and I think they're really worth that kind of discussion, because it's something that I wish I was kind of told younger.
Yeah. 100%.
Your business, so in terms of that journey, because again, like life, business is quite similar to like ups and downs. How do you deal with the highs as well as the lows of business?
Oh God.
Is that too deep?
No. I think for me, it's like you said, it's whatever you're trying to do in life, whether it's, trying to get somewhere in your career or start a family or whatever it is, there's always going to be those like highs and lows. It's about, I think first of all, you have to be like very realistic about, there is a possibility of things like not going the way you want or not going to plan. Absolutely. So I feel like with me, I always try and make sure there's like a contingency plan in place. And I'm one of those people, and again, it's probably because of the way that I think, is I always look and think about the worst possible outcome. But then instead of sitting there like worrying about it or stressing about it, what can you do or what can you put in place to make sure that it doesn't get to that, right? And then yeah, there always will be times, like no matter how much you plan, something will happen which you've probably not thought about, or it's like out of your control. So it happens, and then you just have to deal with it as like the time comes, right? But for me, especially like you said, like motivation is like a big thing if you want to start your own business. First of all, I think for me it was like, it wasn't even like the motivation, it was like actually believing in yourself and believing that you can actually do this. Like I said, there was a whole list of reasons why I wasn't going to be able to start my business or start a business, and then there was like probably one or two things like, okay, like this is actually what I want to do. And even at that time it was like you're always convincing yourself not to do something because it's hard, because you're going to have to put in, I'm someone who loves their sleep, which a lot of people will probably tell you I would happily sleep for like over 12 hours.
I'm a bit like that.
But if you want to do something, you're going to have to make sacrifices, right? You're going to have to. Those days when you come back from work and you're tired, everyone wants to sit there just having some nice dinner and like watching Netflix and going to bed. But if you want to actually make those changes in your life, you're going to have to give up some of those things, right? You're going to have to. I was like, I remember at the beginning of when I actually decided that this is something that I want to do, I was working at the NHS, and it was at the time of when COVID was like, we were like, I think it was that summer we were kind of, when lockdown eased, the first lockdown on, and then we were like going back into lockdown. And I was just like, I remember I was like having a little meltdown at work, because I was like, I thought, it's like everyone was thinking, oh, it's like the summer, it's like been great, like things are easing, we're gonna go back to normal. And then we have like the second wave of, like all the infections and all that kind of stuff. And I was literally at that time, I was like, I already felt like I was overworked. And obviously it's no kind of, everyone knows that NHS is just like understaffed and like overworked and stuff like that. So I feel like I was just like at that point where I was like, I can't keep doing this. And we were actually having we had a restructure that was happening at work, and there was obviously that, this was before COVID was hitting, we were told about a restructure, and then as soon as things were kind of like getting back to normal, we were told, okay, the restructure's back on, and people were on the verge of losing their jobs. And I was like, this is so horrible, like we've spent all this time trying to, like keep the hospitals clear and like saving people's lives and all that kind of stuff, and then we're literally being told that, okay, you're going to be losing your job now. And I remember at that point, I was just like a, someone who was doing like helping with discharges. So I was like basically doing admin work, helping people getting discharged from hospitals, helping them find like nursing home placements or like carers and stuff like that. But then imagine like people who've like, I think that was like, I was only like about a year in working at the NHS, but there's been people who like literally have spent their whole lives working at the NHS, and then they're now being told that, okay, you're probably gonna lose your job. I think that's just like such a horrible feeling. But the thing that I took away from that is, and I understand for some people this might be like, that might be their path, but for me it was like, you're always going to be working for someone else, and you're always at the risk of losing your job. And that is not something that's within your control, because that is it's the company that's making that decision, or your boss is making that decision, right? So why, people always talk about job security, but I feel like no job has job security, because you never know when you're going to be kicked out that door, right? So that was I think that was when I was like, okay, you really need to do something. Like, you need to have a plan B. You have your plan A, but then your plan A is always at risk. There's always a risk of you losing plan A. So you always need to have a plan B. That's when I decided to actually start my business, because I was like, you need to have a plan B. And at this point in time, I was like single, and I was, I've literally just come out of a long-term relationship. So I was like single. My life wasn't, I was 30, I wasn't married. I wasn't having that kind of plan that I was having in life. But I was like, if you actually want to get to where you want to go, which is at that time for me, it was like, I wanted to be able to have like my own property. I wanted to make sure that I had some kind of security in my future. But I knew now that it was going to be me doing this by myself. Like, I wasn't going to have a partner helping me. Do you know what I mean? So it was like, if you actually want to get there, you're going to have to make some changes. And I was like, your business will help you get there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, in the beginning, maybe it was like very financially motivated. But I think over time, like, I've realized this is actually my passion. Like, I genuinely love helping people look after their skin, or, them, even like this, you'll realize that the smallest change in your skin will make you feel confident. So like we said, even about, just doing your skincare or putting on a bit of makeup or doing your hair, and that makes you feel more confident, makes you feel more happy. Like, you're doing it, you're not doing it for anyone, you're literally doing it for yourself, right? So it's been quite a journey to like get here. And like you said, there were like days. I remember one thing, which is what which you said about asking for help or asking for something if you want it. And I remember at the at the time, I was like, when I decided that, okay, I'm going to start a business, and I made this little plan, I was like, this is what I'm going to do, but I'm going to need help. So how am I going to get this help? And I was like, you're going to have to find a mentor or someone who will be able to guide you through the kind of aspects of business, because I didn't know anything about business, and I still claim to know nothing about business, by the way. But I was like,
for all inquiries, go to. No, just kidding.
So I was like, I need to ask someone. I was like, who can I ask that will probably help me? Who do I know that is successful, who's had a successful business or has a successful business? So I actually reached out to one of my very first employers who had his own business, and I kind of met up with him, and I was like, this is what I want to do. I was like, can you help me? Can you just help me? Can you help guide me? Can you give me advice? Because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I just know I've got a product here, and I just know that I want to sell it. But I was like, I didn't know anything else in terms of like marketing, finances, anything else, right? And he said to me, he's like, let me ask you a question. And he was like, are you starting this business because you want to make money? Or are you starting this business because you want to make change? And I was like, I want to make money. And he actually, like, obviously, I don't think I can't remember if I did say, like, I'm here to make money, but no, actually I did. And he was like, there's other ways that you can make money, which will get you there a lot faster than what you're trying to do here.
OnlyFans. No, I'm joking. I'm always joking. Don't, please. Ladies, please no.
Yeah, so I remember him saying that, and then he was like, I can, he's obviously like, he was like, yeah, he's like, I don't think, I remember him saying this, and he was like, the market is too saturated for what you're trying to do here. There's bigger brands out there, there's companies that are way better, and he was like, you're gonna actually lose money making this, like doing this. And I remember I felt so like deflated. I was like, I thought he would be so on board, because I was like, he's like an entrepreneur kind of guy. So I was like, he's always looking at, how he can start the next best thing, or start a business or whatever it is. Like, he's very like entrepreneur kind of mind, right? So I was like, he's definitely going to be on board with this. So I was very like, I obviously like didn't show it at the time, but I was like, so like, my soul was crushed. I was heartbroken. I was like, no, like, this is what was supposed to help me.
He's supposed to tell you you're on to an absolute winner.
Right. And yeah, I remember walking away that day, and I was like, do you know what? I will still do this. I was like, I'm going to prove him wrong. I'm going to go and do what I want to do. I know that I'm going to have to take the hard way to get this. I'm not going to have, some people have their connections, they have, those contacts and networking and all that kind of stuff. They have the money to pump into their business, all that kind of stuff. But I was like, do you know what? It's going to be hard. And I made myself, like, I promised myself that by the time I was 35, I was going to have a successful business. Bear in mind, I'm 34 now, and I still don't claim to have a successful business, but
subscribers, we can change it.
But it's something that, like, you have to, it's something that I've been working on for a lot of years. And, I did like the Princess Trust Enterprise Program. I went and did a natural cosmetic formulation diploma. I feel like you need to have those like foundations in place. If your reason is, I don't know enough about it, go and learn about it, go and get that knowledge, go and get those kind of things that you need to put in place, right? So yeah, it's been like, is this my 4th year now? I think it's about 4 years now that I've been doing this, and there have been a lot of lows, but then there's also been a lot of highs. So I've actually managed to formulate this amazing product. I managed to design all the packaging and everything. I managed to launch my own website. I've done like pop-ups at Westfield. Like, I think just like getting, even like for me, like getting the product like tested and like it getting approved as this is safe for selling on the market, like that was such a big moment for me, because I was like, you've actually made something here that people are now going to be like using. Do you know what I mean? And getting like the feedback from customers, and like, bear in mind, your own family and friends will always say like, yeah, this is amazing, you're doing great. They're going to give you that motivation, they're going to give you that reassurance, and they're going to like, be positive. But when a stranger buys your product or uses your product and says this is amazing, because they're not getting anything out of it apart from the product, right? They don't know me, they don't have any loyalties to me, they don't have to tell me anything.
I remember when I first sold t-shirts from Mazzy 1.0, as I call it, and I started getting purchases like from these random people in Ireland and England. I was like, what? I was like, oh my god. So at that point I knew the product worked. I mean, that'll be another video, I'll explain what happened there. But you've been on quite a journey, and obviously I love your product. I use it all the time. I'm not just saying this. I actually use it before every podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I feel like it's like a, I don't know, when you're like, you're doing something for yourself. I don't know, I know I'm saying because I'm on a camera, but like, I was like, oh, it's a good kind of like thing to have. I was going to say under the skin, but like as in that kind of foundation routine I have. I'm like, okay, it's almost like I've associated now when I use that, I'm like, business baby, as in like to keep going. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but like, my skin loves it. I'm not just saying that, but I'll put the details in the below as well so people can have a look at it.
Amazing.
The end of every podcast episode, I ask them this question. And I know you knew that I was going to ask a question, but you don't know what it is yet. Basically, I want you to picture Palvi in 10 years.
Yeah.
Right? Now I'm going to pull up a seat, and that Palvi will sit down. What do you think she'll say to you?
She would probably say the same thing to me, which is what I would probably say to 10-year-old me, which is, you just have to believe in yourself. I think that is the biggest, like, one of the biggest things that stops people from doing what they want, because they don't believe in themselves. And the day that you start believing in yourself and you don't let anyone kind of negatively influence you and your decision, is the day that you will kind of start your journey of getting to where you want. People are always so worried about what people will think, or, what will my family say, or whatever it is. And, it's like, if you are like, I'm sure that this is what I want to do, I believe in myself, I will get there no matter what. I will put in that hard work, I will be disciplined, I will have that motivation. Even on the days when I have no motivation, I will do one small thing to help me towards that. I think that's when you like will be able to get to where you want. It's all about be confident, ask for things. Sometimes the answer will be no, but you try again. Do you know what I mean? Like, keep getting up and trying. You're gonna fail, and that's one thing I've learned. You're gonna fail. There will be failures, but what do you learn from your failures? So yeah,
that's really, really powerful. I think that to end in that, success I've learned is like, might sound cliche, but I think it's true. Like, success is actually, there's many different intervals of success, right? So like you said, oh, when you realize that actually I'm going to give it a go, and you say formulated your product, well, that's a step in success. It's not like, oh, what is success? And when I've sold 1 million, when I've sold 2 million, like, it keeps changing. So I think understand, and then those appreciate, or kind of not necessarily appreciate, but just be present for those mini successes. You know what I mean? 100%. But yeah, no, that's really, really nice. Palvi, thank you so much for coming on, getting everything clear. I hope you've enjoyed it.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
No, you're welcome. Thank you so much. And best of luck going forward.